Hey guys, Play here bringing you the Week 1 recap for our match between the San Francisco Sandcastles and Josh's Jigglypuffs. So let's go ahead and jump to the battle screen. Alright, so on the top side we have the Sandcastles bringing the Finny, Moltres, Guzzlord, Claydol, Weavile, Vaporeon, and then the Jigglypuffs are going to be bringing Tangrowth, Garchomp, Arcanine, Araquanid, Gengar, and Slowking. So a lot of bulky mons in this match on both sides. 4 bulky waters in the match overall between the Finny, Vaporeon, Araquanid, and Slowking, and some pretty familiar faces for the Jigglypuff side, and really similar defensive core to the one he used to get first seed in Season 2, so something that he's comfortable with, but there's a lot of bulk in this match. And so let's just go ahead and start it up and see what happens. Okay, so I have music is off. Let's get started. Alright, so here's the Araquanid and the Claydol lead. Alright, so Claydol's going to get his rocks on turn 1 as Josh goes for the infestation. So I do like the plan from Josh here is that he wants to trap this Claydol and like guarantee that he can get webs up and that Claydol can't come in later and spin them away. That's kind of like the idea, right? The only problem though is that as you see on turn 1, Claydol outsped him. So Claydol can always just spin webs. Like you'll see on that turn, he does Toxic, which the Toxic is really good. The set that this Claydol is running is really good because it's pretty much made to beat Araquanid in a 1-1. It can't beat Araquanid in a 1v1, but it's made to where he can chip Araquanid down and can guarantee spin webs away. Because offensively, Claydol cannot touch Araquanid. So he does just rapid spin the webs. Like I said, he can always outspeed and spin webs. So like, if, for example, let's say Araquanid gets Claydol in KO range, and then he's like, okay, I'm going to webs on this turn, hope that he goes for something besides rapid spin, and then finish him off on the next turn before he can rapid spin, but that he can't do that because, like, here, if he's at 12%, and let's say Araquanid webs here, then Claydol just keeps spinning until he dies, and like he won't be able to kill this thing without it spinning webs away. So then the Claydol's just trying to get some extra chip damage here, as the Araquanid does take him out. But Claydol has prevented webs from going up. It got rocks up, and it chipped this Araquanid into KO range for Weavile. So Claydol did a fantastic job beating this Araquanid one-on-one. I think that set, I'm pretty sure Caleb made that set specifically to beat Araquanid, or maybe not, like I said, to not beat it, because you can't beat Araquanid 1v1, but at least to where he could create this situation. So I think that was really good. As far as the play from Josh's side, I don't think suicide webs was a good idea, because for one, Araquanid's really good against Caleb's team as like a normal mon, like not just like a suicide web setter, because Araquanid's like a really good Pokemon and not just a web setter. Like, that's not its only niche, because it didn't even have webs until Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I think. So, and I mean, it was good before then. But if we look at some, like, the speed, like when you set webs, it needs to have a purpose, right? Like, if I can get webs up, this Pokemon can beat this one, and this one can beat this one, and this one beats these three. That's kind of the idea, right? But if you look at Josh's team compared to Caleb's team, it doesn't change much. For example, the Tangrowth can outspeed the Claydol and the Vaporeon, which of course the Claydol was going to go down. So, or it did go down. So it really just catches the Vaporeon. This is Scarf Garchomp, who already outspeeds the whole team, so having webs up doesn't change anything. Arcanine would be able to catch Moltres and possibly Weavile. I actually don't even know. But even if he does catch Weavile, it doesn't matter, because if like, Weavile's not going to stay in, and he has so many good switch-ins to Arcanine. His other 4 mons are all good switch-ins to Arcanine, except for, Moltres doesn't want to switch into a Wild Charge, but the other 3 can switch into pretty much any of his moves. So, Caleb doesn't even care if Weavile's getting outsped by Arcanine. That really doesn't even matter. And it would only matter if it's a late game 1v1 and Arcanine's in KO range of like a knockoff from Weavile. That's the only time that webs would matter in that 1v1 situation. And then we have Araquanid. It would only catch, I think, Vaporeon. Gengar outspeeds everything except Weavile, so that would be a pretty important one, is for Gengar to catch Weavile. But it's not the most important speed tie there, because like Josh has good switch into this, or has a good switch into this thing. And then Slow King literally catches nothing under webs. So I think overall it's like 6 webs would change the speed outcome of like 6 different interactions, and none of them are all that important except for maybe Tangrowth versus Vaporeon and Gengar versus Weavile. Those are the only 2 that matter that would like make a difference. So I don't think Suicide Web is the right play there, because like, I don't think even if it does work out, even if Josh was somehow able to get webs up and get rid of that Claydol, it doesn't change enough in the game to really make a difference, in my opinion. But these rocks is a really big problem, because his answer to Weavile is this. But every time this thing switches it's going to take 25%, so that's also something. And, there's no defoggers left, so that's also, that's not looking good for him. Alright, so the Weavile, like I said, never going to stay in on the Arcanine. So he does make Josh does make a good prediction here about him going into one of these 3, and he goes for the Wild Charge. But I mean, look at that, it does 29%, literally does nothing. I feel like physically offensive Arcanine actually puts out a lot of pressure here, so that would have been a nice change. Alright, so AV Slow King comes out, takes no damage. So now this is a pretty big play here. This is actually where the match really flips on its, well, it doesn't flip on its head because Caleb already had the momentum, but it really builds up even more. So AV Slow King comes out, and Vaporeon can't touch it, of course, but he also doesn't know what set this Slow King's running, so he just goes into his Guzzlord here because he thinks, there's nothing that Slow King can, there's no move that Slow King can use that's really going to do a ton to Guzzlord, and so Guzzlord can easily switch in, and he threatens this thing with a Dark Pulse. So that switch makes a lot of sense. It's really unfortunate for Josh that he went for a Psychic there. Of course, he's not going to go for a Scald because the Vaporeon would just Water Absorb it, of course. But, like, if this wasn't, I don't think AV is very good here. If he has, like, Toxic, I think that would have been much nicer. But I'll show you why in a second. So out comes the Tangrowth, and he's going to catch this Choice Specs Modest Max Special Attack Guzzlord Dark Pulse, and it is a clean 81%. That is insane. Okay, so this is max speed Guzzlord, so it does outspeed this Tangrowth, and it is able to finish off the Tangrowth and get its Beast Boost. So then in comes the Gengar because he has the Dazzling Gleam, which is 4 times effective, and it almost KOs. So this goes back to the Slow King play, where like if he's not AV Slow King, let's say he goes for a Toxic, because I'm pretty sure that's what Caleb had predicted, and he didn't want to get his Vaporeon poison. So he switched into this because he thought, okay, if this thing gets poisoned, I don't really care. It's not a big deal, and I can always beat Slow King. Even AV Slow King would probably take a lot from Specs Dazzling Gleam, so that's probably his idea there. From Specs Dark Pulse, sorry. So that was probably like his idea of going into this thing. But since he went for the Psychic, which was best case scenario for Caleb because he got this thing in for free, and by not getting any chip damage, like if he got a Toxic on it, it would have been in KO range for Dazzling Gleam. If he would have went for any of his other moves, it would have done at least 3%. I mean, he probably wouldn't have done much to this thing at all just because this thing is so bulky. But he would have put it, regardless of what he would have done, anything but Psychic puts this thing in KO range of Gengar, and then Gengar comes in, finishes it, and he still has his Gengar alive. But instead, he's not able to one-hit KO it, and the Guzzlord is able to finish off the Gengar. And this is actually this is where the game, the game was won on these three or 4 turns. So making the switch into Guzzlord, being immune, that was huge. And then he's able to take out the Tangrowth, which is a big threat to to Caleb's defensive core. Tangrowth's a huge threat to his defensive core. He takes that out, and then he takes out his main offensive threat, or his best offensive threat in this game, which is the Gengar. And so Guzzlord is just, he plays such a huge role and pretty much wins the game here. And you'll see why. So then the Garchomp comes out. So this is Scarf Chomp. Like I said, I don't like this set. It only outspeeds Weavile. It doesn't outspeed, it only changes the outcome of Weavile, which is obviously one that you want. But like here, it doesn't. He does outspeed Weavile here, but it doesn't matter because he can't stay in, because his Poison Jab is not going to kill. So the Arcanine always can switch in. Of course, it doesn't really want to take a knockoff, but he does go for the Ice Shard, which is interesting. trying to think this through real quick. Because if it's Scarf Chomp, you know that he can't kill you. But if it's, like, let's say, because if it's Scarf Chomp, he'll outspeed you, but you know Poison Jab's not gonna kill you, so there's no reason to go for priority Ice Shard. But if Ice Shard maybe is only Ice type move, then he may not be running Icicle Crash. That's the only thing I can come up with. Because if it's not Scarf Chomp, you outspeed him and you just kill him with Icicle Crash. Interesting. Anyways, so like I said, Vaporeon can always switch into this thing. It doesn't even take any from all charge. That's insane. And at this point, I'm gonna speed the game up a little bit because the rest of it's kind of boring. It just becomes a stall fest where this Vaporeon, Josh's remaining team members cannot break through the Vaporeon. There's no moves. He doesn't have any poison or any toxic to poison this thing, so he can't beat Vaporeon at this point. Vaporeon can literally just wish stall it out. This is the one chance that Josh had a chance to get back in the game, was to switch into Garchomp on this Protect. Because then the Vaporeon ends up being, after leftovers, 83%. And then two Outrageous can threaten it out. That could have possibly, created some momentum for him, but I just don't know. At this point, losing the Gengar was the big play. So, like, Guzzlord was so important in this match, and that's really funny to say, but it's really easy to watch the end of this match here and say, oh man, Vaporeon's got to be the MVP because it just walled the whole team. But the only reason Vaporeon is able to do this is because Guzzlord took out the two biggest threats to this Vaporeon, and when those two threats are off the board, this Vaporeon can literally just do what it's doing here, and that's Toxic Wish Stall. So Guzzlord for me is definitely the MVP in this match because it has the two most important KOs in the match. But overall, I think this is a really good match. I think Josh, you could tell he didn't have much time to prepare. He being gone all week, he probably had maybe 2 days total to prepare, and that's never really enough to prepare. And the only reason I say is because he has a lot of just like common sets, not any sets that are really particular for certain mons. Like I said, the Scarf Chomp, I just don't see where it's useful compared to like a different Garchomp, just because it doesn't help him outspeed anything but Weavile, and then he doesn't have anything that can really take out the Weavile except spamming Outrage, of course, but then that leads to other problems with Tapu Fini. So the Vaporeon is able to finish off the game. So like I said, I think Guzzlord, MVP of the match by far. Vaporeon, of course, was in the game forever and didn't go down and just looked like an absolute wall, but that's only because Guzzlord was able to take out two things that could actually kill Vaporeon, being the Gengar T-Bolt and the Giga Drain, or it could have been a physical Tangrowth as well, but the Tangrowth and the Gengar are the two huge threats to the Vaporeon. Guzzlord took care of both of them, and then once both of those were gone, the win con was sealed, and Vaporeon could literally just win the game on his own, as long as Caleb didn't make any really big mistakes. Overall, I thought the game, Josh, like I said, he needed... he shouldn't have used suicide webs because it didn't help his team that much in this situation. If you bring webs, you don't always have to fully commit. You can always bring the webs and say, the web's actually not that good this game. You know what? Let's change up the plan a little bit. So I feel like Josh didn't need the webs, but then he also didn't bring any rocks or anything like that. And then he didn't bring any defog to get rid of the rocks on his side. And rocks was really bad for his team. Really only bad for the Arcanine, but the Arcanine was important to walling the Weavile, and every time that Caleb could get Arcanine to switch in, that just meant Arcanine was going to be getting closer and closer to KO range for the Weavile. So overall, I think this match was interesting. I think the second time these guys play, I think it's going to be, we're going to see Josh bring a much different team. I'm interested to see what team Caleb's going to bring, because I do feel like Josh is definitely going to realize that, I'm going to need some more offense to break through some of these walls, and he's going to bring some more offense. But then, how is Caleb going to combat that? Is he going to bring more offense, or is he going to, bring the same defense and try to do the same thing again? The Guzzlord was pretty hilarious to see. You can obviously tell Josh's team wasn't prepped for the Guzzlord. There's nothing on his team that switches in to a Dark Pulse from Guzzlord, so I got to give props to Caleb. I think that's the best set of the week. Choice Specs Guzzlord being able to just pound these walls on Josh's side. Such a good set, and those walls on Josh's side can't even touch Guzzlord, Slowking, Tangrowth, Arcanine. Literally, he like Guzzlord walls all 3 of them and can just pound them with Choice Specs, Dark Pulse, or Draco Meteors, or whatever moves he has on that thing. I think the Guzzlord is the set of the week, and it's the MVP for this game for me, no doubt. Great game, guys. Week 2 starts in just a couple of days. See you later. Peace.